So, welcome along to today's session. Today I am talking to Suzannah Butch. I've just got her little bio here, so I'm just going to read it out. So Suzannah Butch is the founder of Calmpreneur.com, an online resource for supporting entrepreneurs struggling with stress, anxiety. Suzannah also works on emotional freedom technique known as EFT, tapping coach, and as a mental health advocate. And I've got to say, I'm just really excited to talk to you. So Suzannah last time interviewed me on part of her podcast. So I wanted to get her to come on, particularly anxiety. It is such a huge and very relevant topic. So for myself personally, I'm not someone who would identify with having anxiety, but as someone who is or has been very kind of introvert, I've resonate with the feelings of feeling really stressed about showing up. And it was just, really at university, like standing up and talking in front of people as I started out as an entrepreneur, doing a live, doing an interview, it filled me with so much fear and dread. And not to the point, I don't want to take it away from people who suffer with severe anxiety where it's almost debilitating. But I think we all have this element where anxiety is a part of our life. And I know I have clients within my Shine Squad group who have dealt with this. And a lot of the mindfulness tools and the stuff that I work with helps with anxiety. But I wanted to get from someone who specializes in the subject and who's also dealt with it on a very deep and personal level to get your perspective. So this is why we've got Suzannah on today, and she has also just given me the most amazing content. She's our guest expert on the Shine Squad for next month, and the value of the training that she's given I just can't even explain it. So thank you so much for that. So before we get into it, if you could just I've given a little bit of introduction to your bio, but could you tell us some more about your story, kind of where you started out and how you've now come on to be a coach for entrepreneurs who are dealing and suffering with anxiety?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to join you today. So yeah, my story obviously started years and years back, particularly with mental health. So I've always struggled with my mental health. I was diagnosed actually quite recently with PTSD, which only really came to light after I'd had, I used to drink quite heavily. I used to drink quite a lot of wine to help me to cope with anxiety and also to kind of self-soothe. And when I gave up drinking, my habitual drinking habits, lots of feelings kind of came flooding back to me. So yeah, I've had anxiety, depression as well. But I've been in business quite a few years. So 2008, I first started, and I had quite a lot of anxiety, like you said, with a lot of it was, I guess, normal anxiety. And I think it's really important to say that we all have a certain amount of stress and anxiety because that's what fuels us. It helps us to perform well. It helps, get that adrenaline going so that we can do these things, go out of our comfort zone. But when it comes to the anxiety that takes over your life, that's when obviously it becomes a problem because you start to become really introverted. You don't want to go out and you stop doing the things that you would normally do. And what happened for me is I had a breakdown really about a couple of years ago now. I was working on my business at the time, and I just found it really hard. I was really pushing. I was struggling to show up. I was over delivering what I was doing, and I just thought there must be something else. Like I can't go on like this with my mental health the way it is. And I felt like I had to cover it up, and I couldn't be honest about it, and that I needed to just show up like, hi, here I am again, all positive.
I think that's the thing, that there's a lot of shame associated with it. And this is why people don't talk about it. And, when we're struggling with things and keeping it on the inside, it's this cycle and almost turmoil that makes it worse. Whereas, a lot of people are talking and encouraging people to speak out. But then at the same time, we get people who are also saying, oh, cut out negative people, cut out people who, there's this real balance. It's like, no, people need a space to talk and need someone to express these feelings to. And did you feel like was there this, I mean, you talk about having a breakdown, was there this, was it an accumulation and there was just this one moment where you snapped, or was it talk us through the experience?
Yeah, so I think it was accumulation. Like I think with any Well, certainly from my perspective, what tends to happen with me is I don't realise how bad I am until I'm really bad.
Right.
So, you know, it's kind of, I'm a lot better now at recognising my own signs, but actually there was probably a deterioration over six to 12 months in my mental well-being. And I stopped doing the things that I would normally do. So normally I would have meditated, I would have, you know, done all these really healthy things, but I'd kind of stopped doing it, and I was deliberately almost self-sabotaging myself in a way. And that was when I just decided, right, it's got to change. And that's how I started Calmpreneur, because I thought, no, I want a space for people to be honest, not like you say, a negative space, but just a space where there was vulnerability and sharing and no judgment at all. And part of that is me just being blatantly honest about my own journey and saying, you know, I'm showing up today, but actually I'm a bit crap. So this is what I'm doing to feel better. And so, you know, just trying to keep things positive where possible, but also just being honest as well.
And have you, like, obviously this is something that you've come to support other people with, but what was the support that really helped you to kind of create a turning point and felt like you could come back to managing and dealing with it much better?
So I think just knowing that I could be honest was just like a massive weight off my mind. So the minute I decided to start Calmpreneur, even though I didn't even know where it was going back then, it just felt like it was so much more real and heart-centered. And that just gave me, I think, the confidence to share how I was, you know, keeping mentally well myself. So yeah, that was the real sort of turning point, I guess, and just thinking, yeah, this is it now. I can just be honest, and I can do all these things to look after myself. I can share my own journey, what's helping and what isn't, and that will hopefully help other people as well.
Yeah, I love that. And how have people responded within the group? Has it found that a lot of people are struggling with the same issues?
Yeah, and it's been like, it started really slowly, and I think that just by showing me really helps people to then show themselves as well. So yeah, it's like 500 plus people now, and people are beginning to kind of post themselves, which just feels so nice. It just feels, yeah, they feel like it's safe enough that they can do that.
Yeah, yeah. And what have been some of the key techniques? I know you use EFT and the tapping. So is that one of the key techniques that you use to help you personally?
Yeah, so EFT I've used for quite a number of years. So it started probably eight years ago when I first discovered tapping, and I thought, God, that's really weird, but I'm going to try it anyway. Like you do when you're an entrepreneur, you just try all these different things. It really helped, actually. It helped with some of the blocks that I was experiencing at the time around money. And then I decided I wanted to study in it because I knew it had emerging research about how it could help with stress and anxiety. So there's studies now that show that tapping can actually help to calm the amygdala, which, as you know, is that kind of stress response that we get when all our physical reactions just go wild. And it also helps to reduce cortisol as well. And they've been doing brain scans and all sorts of amazing things on how tapping helps people to basically calm down. And the good thing about it is anybody can do it, and it, you know, unless you can work one-to-one with me as well, but you can actually do it on your own. So it's a really nice, empowering thing to do, just to calm all those kind of stress responses.
Yeah, that was something I was going to ask you, actually, because there was a client of mine who's working with me at the moment. She had worked with a therapist in the past, but it was the therapist had done the tapping on her, and she'd never been taught how to do it herself. And I think that's often, you know, when we can empower ourselves to learn these things for ourselves, then you can access it at any time. You don't need to rely on anyone else. It's there for you to use. So for anybody who's not heard of EFT, could you give an example of maybe how it, you know, how you would use it, or what it would look like for somebody?
Yeah, of course. Yes. So it's emotional freedom technique, and it's sometimes referred to as emotional acupuncture or psychological acupuncture. And what you're doing basically is you apply pressure by tapping to certain points on your face and upper body. So I'll just run through the sequence. This is how it actually looks. So it does look weird. So you would start just by tapping on this point here, and that's where you say what's called the setup phrase. And that's just really accepting how you feel and acknowledging that it's okay to feel that way, because quite often we suppress all these things. And then you move on to the various points. So I'll just go through them now. So as you can see, it's just really like tapping. And it's tapping as you would as if you were drumming your fingers. That's the kind of pressure that you would apply to the tapping. That's probably the strangest one, under the arm, and then it finishes on the top of the head. So you would literally just tap through these points. If you were feeling really anxious, for example, you could literally just do that whilst doing some deep breathing, and you would start to feel yourself calming down. But usually when I'm working with clients, we work through scripts and phrases based on what they're particularly struggling with themselves. And it just helps you to calm down. It helps you to release energy blocks that might be in your body. And it's just freedom. It is a really freeing thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I remember I did this once with a business coach many years ago, and it was around looking at like anchor, almost like affirmations that you can use when you're doing the tapping. And I suppose it's really bringing you back into the present, isn't it? I mean, you know, there's obviously the science behind it, but it does come back to that space of being present, remembering where you are in this moment, and stopping the brain running away, because that's a huge thing about anxiety. Is it's like this is going off on one and projecting off into the future. So I love that. I love that.
Yeah, so it's really weird as well with the kind of affirmations thing. So we are so used to like the law of attraction and that kind of being positive all the time, and some people, when they start tapping, they're like, oh, why am I saying like I'm feeling really low right now, but that's okay, it feels like it's negative. But it's not that. It's just about acknowledging the truth of what you're feeling, because that in itself can be really powerful. So I tend to start with that, and then we'll eventually, when we get to the end of the tapping, we'll do some more positive sort of stuff to finish on.
And how long in terms, can that be a few minutes, or do you need to, because this is another barrier that people have, like, oh, I don't have time to do this. But is this something that somebody could apply within a few minutes? It could be literally tapping one of each of the places and it can have a benefit.
Yeah, so you can literally within a few minutes, if you're in the middle of an anxiety attack or even a panic attack, you can literally just start tapping. You know, you might do it quite quickly to start with, and then just start to slow it down, and that can work within minutes. When I work with clients, obviously it's a lot longer. I normally do an hour-long session with them. But some of the videos that I've done on YouTube are literally between 5 and 15 minutes, and they're based around things like procrastination, anxiety, having a good day, that kind of thing. And they're quite short, so you can literally just do them in the morning before you start work.
Nice, that's great. And in terms of looking at your own path to recovery, because there's a lot of also shame and guilt around, you know, using more holistic and natural techniques versus going towards and getting medicine or Western type medicine for support. Because I think there's this, you know, there is a place where, you know, medical professionals are dishing out antidepressants and things like that far too easily, but there is a space for that. I mean, what's your experience been? I mean, you know, we're not prescribing any particular technique on here, but just to give people different ideas, like if you are struggling, then go and get help. So what was your experience with that? Did you go and seek medical professions?
Yeah, so I've been on antidepressants for about 4 years now, but I've had kind of various times throughout my life where I've taken them. So I'm on a really low dose at the moment because I'm eventually weaning myself off this year. Yay!
Yeah.
But yeah, there is absolutely a place for medication, and I think in some cases it's very necessary. But I also think that it's really empowering to take some responsibility for our own well-being where we can. And yeah, I think sometimes they are dished out all too easily. I think there is a route for therapy as well, whether that be counselling or things like EFT and other holistic therapies, hypnotherapy, for example. And something I'm doing at the moment, which is EMDR, because I have tried so hard to heal myself, but I realised actually I did need help to heal myself, because I'd managed to somehow re-traumatize myself from trying to do tapping on myself. So, you know,
I think that's the thing. Even coaches need coaches, though. We all, you know, I have coach, and although I coach people, we all having this, you know, network of people where we feel supported, I think is hugely important.
Yeah, I think it's just a case of, you know, empowering yourself to make those choices, knowing what's available to you, and just trying lots of different things and see, most importantly, what suits you. It's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely, I think when we educate ourselves, everything starts when, you know, this is that great quote, is it Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better. And it's whilst we feel in this place of like, I don't know what's happening to me, why am I dealing with this, then that in itself can feel scary and stressful. But when you start to learn and realize, one, that you're not alone, and that two, when you can start to, you know, not that you can maybe ever understand the brain, the greatest brain scientists in the world still don't fully understand the brain, but to get a greater feeling of taking back control, I suppose, and knowing what options are available, I think is a huge step for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think, you know, even if it's like, say if you went to the doctor and you got that medication to start with, that might be what you need just to, like you say, get you at that level point, and then you can start looking at other alternatives. So like, there's no shame at all with it. It's everyone's on their own mental well-being journey, aren't they? And it's whatever works for you at that time is right and perfect.
Absolutely. And there are so many different tools. Is there anything else that you work specifically with that you find really useful for people?
Yeah, so as well as the tapping, from my own personal kind of routine perspective, it's nature, which has been brilliant for me. Mindfulness and nature has just healed me so much. Journaling, meditation. I know you're a great fan of these yourself. You do your morning routine. My morning routine, you know, it sets me up for the day. I assess where I am, how I'm feeling. I don't just go straight into things, because this is what I used to do. So get up, stress, business, work, and never actually give myself any space or time to just think. And that's been really helpful to me as well.
Yeah, I hear that a lot with so many people, and it is this go and it go in the brain as well. And this is where it's all leading up to. And interesting that you touch on nature, because as you know, I live out in the mountains. I'm a huge advocate, but it's not always that easy, especially for people who are in the UK. And like you said today, just before, that the weather's horrendous. So is there anything that, again, it comes down to time? People say, well, I don't have time to go for a walk, I don't have time to do this. How do you bring that element of connecting nature into your life?
Well, there's so many things you can do. Like, it's not just about getting somewhere in a green space and like doing an hour's exercising. It's not about that, even if it's just 5 minutes. And I'm just going to get something to show you. Even if you bring stuff home. So this is like my little nature treasure basket.
Oh, I love that.
So if it's like pissing down with rain, I literally just get this in, like, even just like holding a pebble, it can just be really soothing. So bring stuff to your home where you can, and that can really help. And house plants, even if they're fake, any kind of green is good. But studies have shown that even just by watching or listening, or to kind of nature sounds, videos on YouTube, pictures, it still has a really positive effect. So obviously the gold standard is get out in nature, get walking. But if you can't do that, look out of your own window, look in your back garden, bring stuff into your home where you can.
I think that's lovely. I love that little nature. And I
love my little treasure basket.
One of my intentions is like, I want more house plants. I've got this. Can you see it in the background? It's my orchid. It's the only thing I've managed to keep alive. So
well, that's why I've got my fakes.
But there's a lot of research coming out now about the benefits of having like house plants, not just for, you know, connection with nature, but like air purity and things like that. I mean, you could go down a whole different tangent.
Yeah, feng shui and all sorts, isn't it?
Yeah, but just those little things. I think that's a great idea, having like a little display, or just something that can really ground you. And I totally love you know, there's so many different concentration musics on YouTube that will have animal nature sounds. Just those little things I think is really beneficial. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, that's all right.
Little tips there. So you work predominantly with entrepreneurs, so women in business. Do you want to share a little bit more about what you do, what your program is?
Yeah, so like I said, I started Calmpreneur, and that literally is really a resource site for people that are struggling with stress and anxiety. So there's a services section on there where you can find hypnotherapy, coaching, and there's lots of blog posts as well. In addition to that, I've got like a free little members area which I call the Calmpreneur Hive, because my icon's a little bee, my logo's a little bee.
Nice.
And that's just literally 7 steps to calm, and people can just go on and download that, the resources that go with that. There's some tapping videos in there as well. And then I work, obviously I do a lot of free stuff. So I do free mental health chats for people, and I run the Facebook group. And then I've got my private coaching as well. So I tend to work in batches of either 3 or 5 EFT sessions, hour-long sessions. And then I do coaching as part of that, because I've been in business quite a long time. I kind of combine it depending on what people are needing and where they are. So yeah, that's what I do for my living. And then I've got 2 other online businesses as well around jobs. It's like a jobs and community website. I run 2 of those as well. So that helps me to keep Calmpreneur afloat, because obviously a lot of that is free at the moment.
Yeah, but I love that there's, you know, and I think that's again a big barrier for people, is like, well, I can't get that help and I can't get that support. So I love that you're giving away for free, but of course we all have to pay our bills as well. So
Yeah.
it's incredible. So where can people get onto those resources or get in touch with you?
So if they just literally go to calmpreneur.com, on there, all the links that you need are on there. So there'll be a link to the Hive, you'll see that on the homepage. You can also join my Facebook community. So that's just called Calmpreneur Anxiety Survival Tips for Business Owners. And then I've got my personal site with just my EFT services on at suzannahbutcher.co.uk.
Perfect.
I'm usually hanging out on Facebook, so
yeah, and I will put all of the links to all of that in the notes just below this video. So it's been so wonderful to chat to you. Is there anything that you did want to touch on that I feel that I didn't ask you about at all?
No, not really. Just to know, I think that a big thing about that kind of feeling of stress and anxiety is the lack of connection. And I think that in this, you know, when we're kind of solopreneurs, especially working on our own a lot, I just think that if someone is struggling, it's very tempting to just stay at home and stop seeing people. And actually, that's the time that you need to do the opposite. And I know it's scary and I know it's really daunting, but if you can just get yourself to, you know, a nice informal networking meeting, just to start with, you know, you don't have to say very much, just get out and see people, because that's so important as well.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, we've just started here in the mountains, we've just started a networking group for women in business, and it is so easy to stay behind. I mean, I love the power of the internet, that we can connect with so many people, but there's also this element where we're becoming far more disconnected. So even if you're in online groups, actually be active in them and ask questions and ask for support, and, you know, highlight things that you might be struggling with. And I always say to people, if you can get face to face with people, I think it's an amazing a way to really nurture or improve, work on the things that you might be struggling with in an online space as well. So I think that's a really great tip. So I really hope that you will all go and check out Suzannah. She's incredible at what she does. And if you have been struggling or feeling like you need some support, then again, just take a deep breath. And it might feel scary to go and take that first step into asking for help, but on the other side of that, it's going to be so much worth it, and you are worth doing the work on. So thank you so much, Suzannah, for all of your amazing knowledge today, and I'm excited for my Shine Squad crew to get their hands on your training.
Oh, thank you. Hope they like it.
Speak to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
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 Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and as a special thank you, we want to give you the chance of winning one of my 90-day Get Your Shit Together live planners. All you have to do is like this video and hit the subscribe button, and for every 100 subscribers we're going to be giving planners away.